Perfect. So for today, we have Aske from Journi Digital with me. So I'll ask you, Aske, to introduce yourself. It's always better to have it directly from that side. And yeah, let's just start with where you're currently based and what the company does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my name is Aske, as Katrina, as you just said. I'm one of the three partners at Journi Digital, a Danish conversion and retention marketing agency based in Copenhagen. We work with e-commerce brands primarily and e-commerce businesses exclusively, pretty much centered around increasing conversion rate on the website and, of course, returning visitors, returning customers as well. So yeah, that's the short version.
Nice, nice. Thank you for sharing that. So before we connected, and we already had a couple of conversation about this one, but what was hiring like for you? Walk me through a little bit more where you were before us and what were you dealing with before we had our first talk?
Definitely. So we're a relatively new agency. Started out around halfway into 2025. And have been onboarding a lot of new clients. Luckily, can't complain about that at all. We were at a point where we needed to expand the team in order to keep fulfilling at the same level that we were, and also actually improve the product too, or the service rather, that we deliver to our clients. And specifically, we wanted to get an email designer on board, and at the same time not be limited by the talent pool that we have available in Denmark currently, where most of the email design best practices are. They follow a lot of Danish agencies, and a lot of Danish brands follow different design practices when it comes to email, rather than adhering to the ones that are the most up to date on an international level. So it was important for us to look outward in that regard. Yeah, and when you are relatively new and you are wearing, a lot of hats, doing both the fulfillment of the service as well as hiring, it can be a little bit overwhelming, especially when you're getting into something that you haven't really tried before.
Yeah.
In the case of international hiring, for us at least, and just sourcing the right kind of talent, where especially for an email design role, it's super critical that it's someone who has the visual sense, so to speak, and a good taste, as well as the ability to follow up. So it was super difficult. I don't know. Maybe I should go into. We actually started out by enlisting a different recruitment agency than Jobzzard,
Hmm.
and it was actually a little bit of a disheartening experience, because when we first started receiving portfolios, it was almost like, is what we are looking for and what we're hoping to find not actually out there? Are we doing something wrong? Are we looking in the wrong place? And that recruitment agency actually also threw in the towel halfway through the process, leaving us, back to square one, which is never fun when you're hoping
Yeah.
to get the process resolved, and getting the right person into the job, so that you can move on to other things, and not keep spending time on that same task, and having the same tasks on my plate as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's quite hard when it happens, and we saw a couple of situations even before we started working with you guys. So sometimes it's quite difficult to move past that particular case, and especially if you need to still work with another agency, how do you actually make it a green flag instead of a red flag because you already tested and it didn't work? And regarding that, I wanted to ask you, how did you first hear about us? I remember that it was quite a specific situation, so I wanted to share a little bit more about that side, because most of our clients, for example, came directly from referrals, and in your case it was more, let's say, a content led outbound. So let's hear a little bit more about that one.
Yeah, I think that was just because I've never seen you in my feed before that day actually on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I had just spent a ton of time reviewing portfolios from this other recruitment agency, and kind of had this disheartened feeling, or at least the process wasn't moving along the way that I hoped it would. So I was researching a ton of other ways to figure out a solution to the problem. And then the same evening, basically like 15 minutes later, I opened up LinkedIn, and you had a post about specifically hiring email marketers for agencies, and what most people get wrong. So I think what I thought to myself was basically, if you know what the right salary range is, what's the do's and don'ts when hiring email designers specifically, where do you look for them, etc. Yeah, I thought that you might be a better fit to actually, because you had the network and the experience placing this particular kind of candidate, that we might have more success with you guys, and that proved to be true as well. So definitely haven't regretted reaching out on that day.
Nice, nice. And were you skeptical at first, especially because it was still quite recent, the experience with the previous agency? So what made you think, okay, let me try this, and if it doesn't work out, we'll just be on our own and try to figure it out?
To be honest, I think first of all, I think everyone is pretty skeptical when they're engaging in a new business relationship of any kind. I am, at least. I think my thought process around this was that if you're talking about this, if you have people who have worked with you more than one time, which it looked like you had. I didn't do that much due diligence, to be honest, because we had a pretty urgent need
Yeah,
that we needed, and a pretty urgent problem that we needed to solve. But my thinking was that if both of those things are true, then it can't be all that bad. But yeah, I think it always takes a bit of convincing for yourself, just when going into business of any kind with someone you don't know beforehand. But I think the specialized knowledge, I suppose, around hiring for e-commerce related roles, being on the agency side or in-house, it was one of the drivers, at least for me. Yeah. So I think that's the primary one,
mm-hmm.
really, that it's difficult to be talking about something that's so specific without at least knowing something about it, yeah, as well.
Yeah,
So that definitely helped in making
yeah.
the decision a bit easier.
Yeah, definitely. I think the urgency, and as you said, like specific e-commerce expertise is what made it work well on both sides. So we didn't feel like we were pushed or something like that from our side. And then again, it was the same experience for you, which I think it's like the number one priority on both sides if we want to build something like a long-lasting relationship or a partnership in this case. And what changed in terms of us when we started working together? Was it more, let's say, hands off on your side? Was it more relaxed on your end when compared with the previous experience, or at least coming from a completely different and more skeptical side in this case?
I think first and foremost, the skepticism went away pretty quickly, because when you guys started sending over portfolios, it was pretty clear that there was a big difference in terms of the candidates that you had access to and were able to source, as compared to the previous agency we worked with. So that was a big one right off the bat. I don't know if it was a more relaxed experience, but and I mean that in the best way possible, because we had a lot of portfolios to review very, very quickly, and they kind of kept coming. So it was definitely more work on my end, but that's how it should be. And I think it's the fact that that wasn't the case in the other situation is definitely, that's the situation you don't want to be in, right? Where
Yeah,
you don't have any decisions to make, you don't have anything to review, you don't have any candidates to look at, or you have very few that are actually relevant. So I think right off the bat, we received 5 or 7 portfolios from people who you were already in contact with,
yeah,
or who had been, in contact with you guys regarding similar roles in the past. And all of those portfolios were of higher quality than the best ones we received earlier. So it was a night and day difference in that regard. And we definitely had a ton of portfolios to review, a ton of people to talk to, but it all went pretty smoothly after that.
Yeah, and we actually managed to hire someone pretty quickly, even though it was a bit overwhelming on both sides, especially when you have to review portfolios first. Then we did our process from our side, and then moved into the process from your end, especially because it was also involving a task. So it was a bit of maybe too much back and forth at that point, but then again, a good learning curve, I would say, on both sides. We're
You
talking,
always rather you'd
yeah,
always rather
sorry.
have too much back and forth than too little. And I'd also just add to that you guys have been very responsive to work with and
Thank you.
proactive. So not just responding to what we're bringing to the table, but keeping us posted and updated on the process there throughout the entire thing. So that has been awesome. And I'd always rather have more back and forth than too little, which was also the
Yeah.
case in the previous situation. So yeah, again, a big difference.
Exactly, exactly. I think that's where most of the agencies, not just in recruiting space, but also in e-commerce agencies or web design or similar, where they usually make their biggest mistakes because they don't try to communicate pretty quickly or address concerns or whatever. And if you're talking, for example, with another founder or a hiring manager, let's say, that are maybe in a similar position where you were a couple of weeks ago, what would you tell them right now about Jobzzard? What would be the differentiator in that situation?
If you want someone who knows the kind of roles that you're looking to place, if you want someone who knows the e-commerce industry and the different skills and expertise that's required in it, if you're looking for any kind of visual position, for instance, design-based, I definitely recommend reaching out to Katarina and Jobzzard. It's been a great experience for us at the very least. And yeah, I think the specialized knowledge of the industry and of the specific roles makes it a no-brainer, in my opinion.
Perfect. Thank you, Aske. And yeah, I think we can also end it here because I think this was like a perfect scenario in terms of delivering value on that side. So really appreciate the recommendation there. Thank you.
Absolutely. No problem.